Hi, I'm Scott Campbell.
And I'm Brad Ashley. Thanks, Scott, for coming back. We're now going to talk about that viewing and sharing that we talked about at the end of the last video. So here inside of Solved Engine, where we left off with the workflow, at the top left, there's a viewer option. And so if we hit that and hit Open Viewer, this will open the engine viewing and sharing side of the application. So once this pops up, you can see that again, we've got a number of tools on the left-hand side and our viewer in the center. But what I want to start with is the general overview tools at the top. So under File, similarly to how we can get into the viewer, you can also get back into the Solved Engine workflow side by clicking here at the top. You can set up a new project, open an existing project, and save a project so that you can start from here. So let's save a new project. We'll start that here in our sample data, and we'll call this demo. So once we've saved that, you can now see that that actual file name has become the project name right here at the top. So that'll show you that you've saved that project. You can also save a project as, so if you want to change the file path location or exit the application fully. The tools, the projection manager, the data aligners, and the share and export we'll be talking about throughout this video. So first, let's think about the types of data that we want to bring into the application. Here on the side under Manage is where we can add that data set. So Solved Engine Viewer allows you to bring in point cloud data, panoramic images, planar images, and orthomosaics. If we hit Add Item, we'll see that we can create a folder. This is really important for folks who maybe have multiple floors in a building, specific areas of a site or a region within their project that they want to keep the data separate. You can create a folder for each of those floors or areas. You can add your point cloud, panos, planar, orthos, and actually an entire folder of contents. So let's start out by adding that point cloud. And in this case, it needs to be an LAS format. So I'm going to open that data. It starts to load, and you can see quite quickly that we've got our point cloud data loaded.
That was pretty quick. That was pretty fast loading.
Yeah, it's really quick to load in that file. Now, depending on the file type, it may take a little bit longer, and you can also add multiple files. So if you're all of a sudden adding 10 or 20 of these, it will take a little bit longer to load, but you'll see the progress bar on each file individually. Next, we can load those panoramic images. So I'll go back, and in this case, all I need is a general CSV file that has those standard name, northing, easting elevation, pitch, roll, and yaw of those images. If you don't have that, or if the sensor that you're using for data collection doesn't have an export from that, you'll want to go back into the engine side of things and use our CSV to solved CSV conversion, and it'll take you through the steps to prep that. You can always also email us at info@solv.com, and we'll be able to help you walk through the creation of that CSV file. So once I've clicked that and opened it, it'll actually find all of the images with similar names to what's in the CSV file. So here I haven't had to load any images, but they instantly were recognized as the same image with the same name from the CSV. So now we've got our data loaded. But if you look down here at in the aerial view, we can actually change back and forth.
I was going to ask what that is. So that down the bottom left-hand corner was the aerial view?
Yeah, you can change back and forth between scene view and aerial view here in the bottom.
Oh, okay. And it toggles back and forth, right?
That's right. Now you can see that our data's landing somewhere in the ocean. And
what's that green triangle there, Brett?
That's the direction that we're looking from inside a scene view. So as I move around, you can see that the angle of that triangle changes. But it's likely that this data location is not correct, as it's mobile street data, and this doesn't look like.
Yeah, I was going to say that's out in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, that's out in the middle of the ocean, and yet we're looking at a street. So, so what happened, and how do I fix that?
Yeah, so you can quickly fix that by changing the projection here in the unknown projections up here at the top. And again, if your projection, when you go into here, if your projection isn't available in your list, you can always go back, close this, go into Tools Projection Manager, And this is where you would add that new projection.
Right.
So you can add a new one based on custom parameters, or if it's something general like an EPSG code, general text, or UTM zone, you can actually search here in the list and it'll populate. So for example,
this is the same projection manager that we covered off in the earlier video that was in Engine.
Very similar.
Thing? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I put in, I know in this case, this data is in Calgary, it's a 3TM 114, and up will pop a list of various versions of it. So now what you want to look for is whether it's the right units. In this case, it's a NAD 83 versus a NAD 27. So just ensure that you've got the right copy of the projection that you want to use for your data. And you can add that projection to your list. Once that's done, you go back into the project overview. If you aren't happy with your title of your project, you can change it here. If you know the actual camera height of your sensor, you can change that in here as well. And then once I set that, let's find the 3TM 114 West. Once I've set that, we'll see that the data will actually shift. This camera calibration file we'll talk about in the next video. So once I update that project.
Oh, I see. The aerial view just changed.
The aerial view just changed, and we're now in Calgary, which is where this data set is actually located. Okay. Down here at the bottom in aerial view, we can change from, right now we're looking at OpenStreetMaps. We can look at the ArcGIS world imagery, as well as the ArcGIS streets. And as well, I mentioned off the top, you can actually add your own orthomosaics or overview files if you have those available.
Now, Brad, back to those other aerial options that you just mentioned. I'm assuming that it requires an internet connection for that, right? Like I can't be in offline mode and pull those things up, or can I?
That's right. You'll have to have a downloaded copy of some sort of background map if you want to have a background while you're offline. Again, you can always change back and forth between scene view and aerial view here by clicking the little arrow. So back here on the scene view side of things, let's look at, this isn't maybe the best way that you want to look at your point cloud data. So let's look at the settings for that. Here in the top right, we can go into the settings and we can now change the look and feel of this point cloud. If the point cloud's been colorized to RGB,
oh, cool.
You can change the color. Yeah. If you've got intensity on that project, you can change to intensity. Or if you've actually got your data classified, in this case, grounded, not ground, you can actually change to that as well. You can also change the way that the navigation works. So you'll see these arrows down here on the screen. You can change locations by clicking on one. It'll move you in the scene to another camera. And if you don't like the arrows, you can change it to markers, which will show all of the marker locations. Or if you're trying to do a screen capture, you might want to turn them all off so that you can take that print screen. You can also change the opacity of the points by changing the point cloud visibility, turn it up and turn it down. You can change how far those points load in the scene. So this allows you to just look at points in a certain distance. And you can always change the actual size of the point in the point cloud itself. You can also turn on and off point cloud sizing, which has to do with when you're zooming in and zooming out. As well, you'll notice that the points are circular right now, and you can turn those to being more square. The final thing here in the settings, if you do have classifications, you can turn those classifications off and on individually.
Can I do stuff like measurements, or what can I do with this data once I've got it loaded?
Yeah, so once you've got your data loaded and you're ready to go, you can do measures up here at the top. So we click on the measurements. We've got a standard list of measurement types: single line, single point, snap up and down, area, as well as volume. And once these measurements are taken, you can actually export out the file or save it. So if we want to do an individual line across this road, maybe know what the road width is, we can click on one side and onto the other. It'll come up and show us what that distance is in meters, and also the grade and the angle, the vertices of the points. The reason that this is automatically going to meters is because the projection that I've set is a meters projection.
Right.
And so if I had had an imperial projection, it would be in feet. But down here at the bottom, you can overwrite that and make it go into imperial versus metric.
Okay, Brad, I got a quick question for you. Looks like this data set's pretty good. I see looking at those power lines there, they're lined up, both the LiDAR and the imagery is lined up pretty good. Some of my data files, not so good as that. And how do I clean that up before I go to share it with the client?
Yeah, so in this case, this data is well aligned, but we see clients often have issues with their data. Maybe it's a general alignment of a misalignment of one photo, or maybe the entire collection's has an issue because of some sort of systematic error. In that case, we do have a tool for the systematic error types using our Data Aligner Advanced. And for those that just have a single photo that maybe is out of alignment, you can use the Data Aligner Basic. And I'm going to walk you through both of those tools in the next video.